Meanwhile, the territorial row with China was tackled in a special hearing conducted at the House of Representatives. Let's hear the full story from Freddie Abando.
With the conclusion of the Philippines presenting the merits of its case against China over its territorial dispute in the South China Sea before the Permanent Arbitral Tribunal at The Hague in the Netherlands, a ruling is expected to be issued in 2016 based on the tribunal's review of the Philippine position, contesting China's 9-dash line, which led to its creeping incursion within the country's exclusive economic zone based on the UNCLOS. A major concern was China's reclamation activities. China did not participate in the process. Among the members of the delegation led by Foreign Affairs Secretary Alberto Romulo were Congressman Rodolfo Biazon and Congressman Bichara, chairpersons of Defense and Foreign Affairs. The two conducted a special hearing with experts on China to assess the possible ruling of the arbitral tribunal and its impact to the bilateral ties of both nations. One of them is China expert Chito Santaromana. Santaromana lived and worked in China. He is a globally recognized expert on China's evolution to a major world power.
We should stay the course, finish arbitration, but then after arbitration, do a policy review on how to deal with the results of the arbitration. And in this regard, I want to share with you what the Chinese scholars said that may give you an idea of how they're going to meet this issue. Some of them have been mentioned already by Jay and by Richard. Their argument basically relies on three things. One, as I'm sure Congressman Biazon heard more than enough at The Hague, historic rights. Second, as Richard and Jay have said, the issue of intertemporal doctrine. This is a technical term that basically means before there was UNCLOS, the Chinese claim were already there, so that UNCLOS cannot eliminate it or extinguish it. That, of course, these are technical legal issues that the tribunal will provide legal clarity, and this, I think, is the value of arbitration. It will provide legal clarity on certain issues that if you resort to negotiation, you'll go around in circles because both of you have different views and nobody will resolve it. The third thing I want to say is that the other Chinese argument is that based on what they are trying to argue, that they have a historical title, and that because of that they had this title before UNCLOS was there, they're trying to move towards basically a legal technicality so that the tribunal would say that we cannot rule on this under UNCLOS.
Former Ambassador Alberto Encomienda raised the question if China will comply with the tribunal's ruling if it favors the Philippines case.
If this can be resolved by arbitration, it will take a very, very long time. And we are of course all aware that China is doing its consolidation of its position in the South China Sea. And by the time generational, I think, that this will be resolved by arbitration, there's really nothing to, it will be a Pyrrhic victory for me, Mr. Chair.
Despite the country's territorial dispute with China, Professor Clarita Carlos stressed there must be a strategy to resolve it peacefully.
And I have challenged Senior Colonel Wang, I'm sure you know him, the defense attaché. I said, oh, okay, so what do you think? Why are you doing this? I think this is a stupid thing to do, and if you think this is going to inform 12 nautical miles, I'm sure you know what UNCLOS says about this. And I said, you know what you need to do, because your leader anyway, Xi Jinping, already proposed a joint use. Let us transform this like Antarctica into research stations so they don't become military garrisons. And right now, Antarctica, if we follow that template, sir, is really requiring, let us say, PhD students in marine science, oceanology, and related disciplines to take at least 2 semesters in these research stations. So let's take up the invitation of China to do joint use, and let's say, okay, these artificial islands, make them research stations. Do not make them military garrisons.
3 other experts expressed their views on how to resolve the territorial dispute and the measures the Philippine government should undertake to preserve and protect the sovereignty of its territorial waters.
Our recommendation, Your Honor, really is that actually we need to pay more attention to ensuring our minimum capabilities first to enforce our laws and regulations before legislation fully opens access to the archipelago to foreign powers. Here we need to be concerned about the modernization of the EFP and ensuring that minimum elements for archipelagic defense are in place before we actually fully open our waters to foreign powers. Navy and Air Force contingency plans for any offending or erring vessels and aircraft particularly must be in place, and especially with respect to our monitoring of our waters, we need to ensure that we have priorly or previously established all of the Coast Watch stations at the important choke points into and out of our archipelago.
From my position, it's very important for the Philippines to not forget the scramble on the ground, because the worst thing that can happen is that we get a favorable outcome in the court, but we lose the fight on the ground, because that's where the real scramble is happening. And God forbid, if there is a conflagration in the area, the last thing I want is to see our courageous troops completely exposed and in a situation whereby they could be easily neutralized by their Chinese counterpart, just when all other countries, including Malaysia, Vietnam, and Taiwan, have been fortifying their position.
For the People's Television Network, this is Freddie Abando reporting.